Hello and a warm welcome to another episode. My guest today is Martin Scholz, former SVP Strategy and Development at Überall and Global Director of Channel Partnerships at Usercentrics. Martin shares a very inspiring and refreshing perspective of the holistic benefits of proper partnership management, or nowadays called nearbound, and why leads are just a nice byproduct. Welcome, Martin.
It's such a pleasure to have you, Martin.
Thank you for having me.
So this podcast episode started when I introduced my go-to-market podcast to you, and then you said, where the heck is nearbound? And so here we are. And I think nearbound is definitely a term which was new to me as well. So happy to leave the expert to explain it.
Yeah, I guess nearbound is probably just a new name for something which we try to do in the past couple of years, but sometimes you need to give it a catchy name that people better understand the idea. And I guess the origin comes from the folks of Partner Hackers who said, well, there was this era of outbound in the early days of B2B, SaaS and software company, where you just, if in doubt, sent another email, right? But then about 10 years, 15 years ago, HubSpot came to the market and said, no, stop bothering people. You know, we all got too many emails at that time already. So let's create amazing content and they will come to you. And that was the era of inbound. If you look at today, you know, there's so much information. There are so many great SDRs, BDRs who try to get a meeting book. There are so many white papers published. I recently saw a meme that said like the death of white paper, right? Nobody reads white papers anymore. Anybody has so much information. So what we see is that there's a strong move by the buyer not to read or try to answer to an SDR and make their own research, but they tend to ask somebody who can help them to solve the problem because they solved it in the past. So basically you ask somebody. And this is like the nearbound, right? You look at somebody who's around you, who's near you, who you trust, who can give you an advice. And this is basically a way to which summarizes a lot of the opportunities you have by improving your go-to-market strategy using that power of your ecosystem.
And that's a very good remark because we talked about everyone, at least a lot of founders are looking for better leads or more leads when it comes to partnerships, and either they use it as a second option for go-to-market. So what I really liked talking to you in advance was that nearbound or partnerships, which is more popular still, is a contributor for improving the entire go-to-market. And what I'd like to do is, because you gave so many great examples, let's start from marketing or awareness, like you were saying. So before you even aware of a potential product, you ask people, and then let's go through what can be done with in regards to boosting sales, but also to boost the after sales part. I'm super curious to learn more about that.
This is actually, you mentioned a very good point. If we come across that and we talk to a lot of founders or C-levels and other executives, and we hear a lot of them, they say, yeah, we want to do something in partnerships because they heard it on a podcast, they heard it from the investors, they watched the video from Sarah from Andreessen Horowitz, who says, yeah, partnership is the new thing, and you know, a company who drives 50% of the revenue from partnerships is better than somebody who's doing 100% direct, if it's a split, etc., but they don't know really how to do it. And then I feel like, yeah, let's do partnerships here, 30% off my list price, off you go. And then they wait and want to count the money coming in. And, you know, shortcut, it doesn't work that way. Why would somebody sell your product, right? So trying to find somebody, make it a useful partnership that somebody starts to drive your revenue is like the master level, right? This is Champions League. And there are so many ways where you can benefit from partnerships way earlier. If you think about your SaaS as a B2B SaaS company, your main KPIs are customer lifetime value divided by customer acquisition cost, right? The customer lifetime value needs to be higher than your customer acquisition cost. Partnerships can on so many levels influence these two main KPIs in a positive way. Let's start with, as you said, awareness, right? Or marketing. So if you start to want to generate great leads from your marketing and you start to create another webinar, it's much easier if you have a strong partner who already has an audience where you have a good story to tell. Like think about another solution provider, somebody who has a solution which your customers will use before or after they use your software. A little bit like, hey, people who bought this on Amazon also bought that. Then you have a mutual story. You invite your customers, the partner invites their customers. All of a sudden, you have a much higher audience, much because you have a good story to tell how A and B work together. It's much more convincing than trying to collect webinar participants on LinkedIn. So what you achieve is you may not have more leads, but you have much higher quality leads. You have much lower customer acquisition costs because you don't have to invest so much time to get participants, but also those you get are much more likely to convert.
Yep.
So it's an easy way to pick example how partnerships can help on the marketing team. Another ideas, for instance, which is very often overlooked, is partnerships can help your product team. If you have a feature request coming in again and again, which is not core to your solution, let's say you have a B2B SaaS solution again, and people say, "Oh, can you please include a chatbot for in-application help?" Well, you can try to reinvent the wheel, or you can find someone of these amazing companies out there who have a very advanced chatbot technology, who are not just a supplier, because they need to tailor their chatbot to your needs, right? They need to train the model on your questions, etc., etc. It's not something you can just switch the other day. So it is a partnership relation after all, but it helps you to achieve your go-to-market much faster than you would try to develop it yourself. Or if you want to build an integration with our solution, which creates a great stickiness, right? So you connect your product via an API to Zapier or some other middleware or some other solution directly. It helps you to enhance your feature set. So sales will be happy, marketing will be happy because it can tell a better story. But especially customer success will be happy because your product has more value. It's less a single point solution. They increase the customer lifetime value. So partnerships help the customer success team. If you think about solutions like CRM systems, which are not plug and play, which need to be an implementation customization phase. Yes, you can do it yourself. And I talked to a couple of the clients who said, yeah, we need to control this. We need, we want to make sure that it's super, super cool. But honestly, why shouldn't an experienced system integrator not be capable, if you enable them correctly, to do amazing implementations? Salesforce does not implement any Salesforce license themselves anymore, or Spryker or Adobe or HubSpot for the sake, or even like small business or solutions aiming on SMBs. They have smaller agencies who do the implementation. What's the benefit? A, the implementation partners are trusted. B, you don't have to invest so much in your post-sales operations team because you're a software company, you're not a solutions company, right? So there you reduce your your post-sales costs significantly. And I'm talking like 5 minutes and I didn't even touch sales yet. Remember, this is like where I said, yes, and of course, there's a power in co-selling. There's a power in referrals. There's a power in even reselling if you have a good solution around that. But this does need some prerequisites not all products will meet, because successful channels by definition usually, and there are always exceptions, but usually only work if your channel partner is a service-oriented company who can sell man days or FTE hours around your solution. So if you have a plug-and-play solution, awesome, but you will not find a channel partner because there's nothing to sell services around. So if you have either implementation, configuration, at least maintenance, or using the software. So at Searchmetrics back in the days, it's an SEO platform, by now acquired by Conductor. But basically, this was a solution for improving your Google rankings. Most companies didn't have a good in-house team. They used agencies for that. So the agency were our channel partner because they used our tool to provide SEO services to their clients. If you have this motion, then you can have a good channel. If not, it will be very hard. So please, if you think about partnerships, don't just hope that somebody sells your product.
Wow. I really, really love your holistic view on go-to-market and partnerships. So I'm just thinking out loud how to dive into it. Let's start with the obvious one, because what I really found super, super interesting and valuable for hopefully also for our listeners is if you think about partnerships, so where should be also the commercial benefit? And it was an eye-opening to me that especially it's not the kind of 5% or 10%. So it might be for some attractive to get some extra money. But the real game changer, at least for me, and I'm super curious to hear your thoughts, is if it's a win-win situation in turn, you have the software and you have a partner who is selling mandates and or services around. And you also, I think you use some multipliers and factors. Could you just elaborate a little bit more in that regard? Because that was fascinating for me and really, really helpful.
Yeah, and we are diving now automatically into the channel business or channel partnership business, which is what people always want the most. Happy to do that. Just to give a little bit step back, is like if you think about the one which I mentioned first, the marketing partnership between product vendor A and product vendor B, there's no commercial benefit. Nobody pays the other one for anything. The idea here is, hey, if we market together, we both have a better customer acquisition cost, and we both save money by producing 2 webinars or getting 2 while paying for 1. Because I do 1, my partner does 1, we have 2. That's the benefit there. This is something you always have to keep in mind. Partnership is not transactional. It's not money against service. Yes, there are sometimes, and regularly, there's also money be involved, of course, but that's not usually the driver of this. The idea of a partnership is a mutual long-term relationship. It's like marriage, right? There needs to be something in for me, and there must be even more something in for the other partner. So if you look at this, coming back to this channel side of things, so reseller, co-selling, that thing, I have had tremendous arguments with channel partners back in the days who were negotiating. If you look at reseller space, typically 30% if they really close the deal. If there was 27.5 or 32.5 or 30%, tough discussions. And at one point I said to the managing director, sorry, can we just make a break here? Look, our average MRR is €1,000. So if you make 30% of this €1,000, it's €300. Can you remind me what is your hourly rate for your senior consultants? If you charge €250 per hour for your senior consultant, how much value do you have, whether 300 or €320 per month on the license? And just keep that, and that puts it back in the perspective. So people like to negotiate about that because it was like, yeah, let's try to get a better deal. But ultimately, this didn't at all move the needle. That didn't even pay the rent or the light. That was maybe something. I had another agency owner who said, like, yeah, Martin, at the end of the year, when I get then the kickbacks or the commissions from the software we position with our clients, yeah, that's a nice benefit for the Christmas party, right? But that will not help him to strive his agency business. His business is not selling software. His business is providing services. If you're a system integrator, your business is to run projects. It's not to sell software. This comes sometimes along, yes, but typically, if you look at these, I mentioned Spryker, Salesforce, Adobe, HubSpot, the big ones, they typically have relations between 1 to 5 to 1 to 7 for software revenue to service revenue. So for a software license where a customer paid 1, they charge 7 or 8 euros on implementation, right? So this is the relation you have to keep in mind. Yeah. And as always, there are exceptions. There are, especially in the small business space, if you sell to SMBs, there are sales powerhouses who make the money from selling your solution. But typically, they don't go home with 30%. It's more like a mass event. At Überall, we partnered with Ionos. At Transactional, we partnered with Ionos for the very small businesses, and they got, without telling too much, more than 30% of the retail price, because they owned the whole relation. It was their customer. They did first level, second level, third level support, first and second level support. They did everything, invoicing, billing, etc., etc. For us, it was just mass distribution. But again, this is not applicable for most of the other B2B stars.
Yeah, it's like I said, it was super insightful for me, because I tried in the past. So yeah, like you were describing, are you getting 5%, 10% referral, more in a reseller motion? And it's that this gets sticky or really significant for the partner. It's nearly impossible. So you might get some revenue in, but this, what you describing, also the thinking, the strategic and relevant thinking behind it, was super helpful, at least for me. Another kind of provocative statement you made in advance: there are no channel conflicts. So because when we are talking about channels, I know for sure that some partners will think, okay, we have a direct sales, and if we are investing into partnerships, sooner or later we will enter conflicts. And you had a very clear opinion about that.
Yes, there's no such thing like channel conflict. I was recently on a CRO summit from Provin in London, and a room full of CROs, and they were I was on a panel about partnerships, and there was channel conflict. I said, like, guys, there's no channel conflict, because it's not a direct sales deal or a partnership deal. It's a company deal. It must not be relevant whether this deal was closed by my partner or by my direct sales or in combination. I need to make sure that I win the deal. People start to, you have the saying in German, right? They start to distribute the bear before it was hunted down, right? You need to get this deal in first, and then we may look who gets what from that deal. But ultimately, if you feel like you have a channel conflict, your incentive systems are broken. You did set up your teams to compete with each other in an unhealthy way. That's why I said partnerships must not be a secondary go-to-market. It's an elevation of your current go-to-market. If you have a direct sales notion which drives revenue for you and you start partnerships, the goal for partnerships needs to be to make your sales team more successful. And if this means that your reseller, if you're a free reseller who can close a deal, you must not allow your direct sales to poach the partner. If an IE, an account executive, tries to undercut a partner deal to get a quick win on his or her commission check, fire her or him. It's no-go. You would not allow this person to steal from his colleague or her colleague. Why would you allow her to steal from a partner who's your extended sales force? It's toxic. You must not allow it. By the way, this partner, you may win this one deal faster or whatever, but you lose maybe 10 other deals this partner could bring you because they have their own portfolio, right? So it's a really, really short-term view on this. If you have to pay double commission, pay double commission. No worries. It's still cheaper than not having this partner because he will have more deals in the pipeline if you have a good partner program and if you select the right partners. Again, the only channel conflict I had, and this is one luxury problem you want to have, is there's an official RFP out and you see that 3 of your partners apply for the yes RFP and maybe your direct sales team applies to the same RFP. Awesome. Then you need to be very fair to each other, not try to treat anybody better, but ultimately you have a 4 times higher win rate because you have 4 horses in the race. We had this search metrics back in the days, 3 partners and us against our one big competitor. Of course, we won this RFP.
Yeah.
Not we, one of our partners, because ultimately the client was happy to have software and service, which we couldn't provide. We could, but we did step back and let the partner win, because ultimately that was an investment in the future, right? You have to give to get. So yes, if you think you have channel conflicts, have a critical look at your own incentive structure. You may have set up something which provokes unnatural behavior or short-term optimized behavior.
Yeah, it sounds to me it's a kind of inconvenient truth. So I see it kind of wrong by default, or kind of that you have these tensions by the pure setup, how to include partners, that you have these, also the mindset. And yeah, if we could close it with our direct channel, it's better than to close it with third parties. So at least I see it in not really entirely professional or senior go-to-market organization, and therefore
I saw it again. I saw it as well, but actually it's very short term, because ultimately, yes, there's always the idea, yeah, my direct sales team can pitch better than my partner, but then you may have not enabled your partners the best way, because just believing that ultimately would mean that your own employees are smarter than other employees. Simply typically not true. Maybe they are, but not as a general rule. Yes, our solution is so complex. Yeah, then you go in a co-sell motion. You just make sure that you combine your product expertise with the trust and the relation your partner already has, right? Then you have a real win-win situation. I guess the reason why in so many, there's one thing, it's a statement that there's a statistic that 80% of partnerships fail. And I want to bring that down to 70%, because I think it's so crazy. Why do there so many fail? But the answer is very simple, because most revenue organizations are led by CROs, VP sales, who come only from a direct sales side. They made their career on that side of which is fantastic, but they didn't have they don't have an understanding of partnerships necessarily. If they start a partnership notion, they look at partnerships with a sales view, and they try to apply sales KPIs. They try to measure the partnership team on sales KPIs. So where's your partnership pipeline? What does the forecast look like? And it's not your forecast; it's a partner's forecast. So even if you manage to build a good trust that they share a lot of information, you still do not control this pipeline. It's not your pipeline to move. And then you have these awkward situations that the sales director or the VP sales calls the partner manager every other day, especially at the end of the quarter or end of the year. Like, can we get this deal, and can we make more pressure to the partner? Well, you do not win the deal if you make pressure to the partner. Look, the partner himself is driving this business, because they typically will have, if you remember, for your 1,000 MRR software revenue, he probably has 10K on implementation fees in the air. Of course, he will close this deal. He will do everything because they need their money to run their business. So there are a lot of misconceptions. People measured by wrong KPIs, even internally, which cause them to some very strange behavior. If you take 2 steps back, you look at them and say like, wait, what are you doing there?
Yeah.
Right?
Sense at
So
all. Yeah.
this is the and this is no, but I don't want to, there's one thing I learned, don't bitch about the CROs. We need to, well, I want to help them to better understand it. What can I do instead? What is a better way to do it? How can I achieve my goals better? What are the KPIs I should look at if I cannot apply my good old Salesforce standard reportings on that? Okay. And there's another thing which plays into this is one other big buzzword, which the guys from Partner Hacker who kind of invented this nearbond thing says like, trust is the new data, which is like, okay. But if you think about it, in the last 10, 15 years, we have been told we need to be data-driven, take data-driven decisions. And as a son of a statistician, I do understand that, but I know one thing, do not believe any statistic you didn't manipulate yourself, which means in a more positive way, data, you need to understand the context. And despite all our trackings, all our tools, we cannot catch and capture everything. One thing I think, Björn, you're absolutely aware of is attribution. Last point, adjusted. Well, it doesn't work. We cannot capture every moment because there are non-digital touch points. This might be that somebody goes to an event, talks to somebody, and this person says, oh yeah, I spoke to Björn, he's a great guy. And you get an inbound. You don't even know that this person spoke to your previous customer beforehand. Or, this is where it gets challenging with partners, right? If you have this partner, there's partner source, which is very clear that the lead came from the partner, the deal came from the partner, and there's partner influence. How do you measure in partner influence? How much interaction the partner has to have? And there's one thing, partner influence sometimes can be as little as you are on a consideration phase to buy a particular product. You are pretty good. Your account executive is super excited with you because you're coming to the closing stage. And what you do is you just text your buddy on a WhatsApp and say, hey, I'm considering buying from Martin. Is the solution any good? And all which comes back is thumbs up or thumbs down. You will never capture this WhatsApp in your CRM systems. But this will make or break your deal. And there needs to be, and this is where they say trust is in your data. If your partner tells you, hey, Martin, by the way, Björn asked me recently whether to buy your product. I said you should. Did you buy? Then I should say, thank you. Here's your referral fee. Even though he didn't necessarily submit a referral form in upfront and followed my process, I need to be trustful to my partners at some point.
Bearing in mind the power a good setup or good partners have, I'm curious, do you have any good or best cases how to structure it from an organizational point of view? Because you mentioned, and I shared the same observations. If you just have it attached to a sales guy closely, then you wouldn't fully use the entire potential of partnerships, or you would just be curious about the leads and you neglect the power of trust when it comes to marketing, but also post-purchase and even product. Do you have any great examples where they get it right in your sense?
If you want to do partnerships, it needs to be a leadership alignment. Too often the partnership notion is just kicked off by either the CRO or maybe one of the founders who delegates it to somebody, but it's not a full company-wide alignment. Mm-hmm. And this always sounds like we want to make us bigger as we are, but partnerships is always, touching on all departments. That's why even though you will have a partnership department, because you need to have somebody doing it, right? The person needs to report somewhere, or you have a team. Ultimately, any partnership notion will always be cross-functional, cross-departmental. So you need to talk to product sooner or later. You need to talk to marketing anyway. You have partner marketing. I would say it comes in 4D. You want to have marketing to win new partners. You want to have marketing to keep partners. You need to do marketing with your partners to win customers, and you need to do marketing with your partners to keep the customers. So it's actually pretty complex, right? So or can be pretty complex. So you touch that, but you also need support from the legal teams because somebody needs to check the partner contracts. You need support from your accounting billing team because if you need to send money back and forth, maybe you want to pay commissions, you need to figure out how you can do it. If you have a great partner who brought you 10 deals, you don't want to send him 10 invoices or 10, ask him to send in 10 invoices or something like that. So how do you do this? I mean, this back office stuff. So coming back to your question, where do you locate the partner team or, how should they be reporting to? It is not an easy question to answer because it depends. If you have a very channel-oriented partner business predominantly, it does make sense to put it into the CRO organization, given the CRO enough an education about what is the goal, how to set it up correctly, and make sure that the CRO, that she knows why partnerships work differently from what she probably knows from the direct sales side. If you have a more PLG product-led company, a product-led growth company like Miro or something like that, where your typical growth comes from the product, so your partnerships aim predominantly to generate great technology integration partnerships, which enable you then to generate leads from those product integrations, then it does make sense to have the product team being connected to the partnership very closely because they are focusing on the product side of things. If you are focusing solely on the marketing side because you are working with product partners who do marketing together without necessarily building technology integration, because that's not a precondition even, it might make sense to have it on the CMO side. If you have a very strong partner organization, in my roles, I usually reported directly to the CEO because I was overseeing a broad variety of partnerships. So long, short, it depends. Like always in partnerships, there's no blueprint, there's no magic bullet, there's no shortcut. Somebody tells you, growth hacking by partnerships, forget about it. It's always the thing where you need to understand what is the context of the company. I think I told you this synonymously with fire, right? If you have a campfire, you want to put it out, you put water on it. If the next day in the kitchen your oil in the pan starts to burn and you put water on it, it explodes. So both cases you see a fire, both cases you want to put water on it. One time awesome results, next time explosion, terrible result. And this is when you miss the context. This is when you look at data without understanding the context of the data. If you believe you are data driven, but you actually look at broken data, corrupted data, or data which is just not complete enough to make a decision upon it because you cannot capture all the relevant information around it. So this is always the question, like what is the context of the business? What is the goal of this partnership? What do I want to do with that? What is the most logical thing? One thing I can say, don't put them in the silo. Make sure, even if you have them somewhere, they always need to work cross-departmental, and then they need to have an alignment in your leadership team that the whole company understands. We want to do partnerships as an elevation of our go-to-market. So same like legal, billing, BI, RevOps supports your current go-to-market. They need all step up the game and also support these elevated go-to-market and adjust where needed to meet the requirements to show how partnerships works, to adjust the billing or improve their dashboards or enhance the product. And all can only be there if the partner initiative is aligned and supported by the whole leadership team. If the partnership goals, they must support the company goals. If that's not done, it will not work. This is where it usually breaks because the partnership goals are not defined. If I speak, in our PXP Academy, our certification program, where we train partner managers, one thing I always ask in the beginning, like, what is your goal in your role in a partnership business? Because we promise to help them to be more successful in their job. You cannot be successful if success is not defined because the goal was not there. And way too often I hear, oh, revenue, but revenue is not a goal. Revenue is the result. And if you say, okay, what kind of revenue? Net new, retention, expansion? Are they looking for bringing the money directly in, or are you actually looking in a way to support your direct sales with referrals, or do you want to reduce customer acquisition costs by marketing? All ultimately will point up into the revenue. But you need to be very clear what they should do. And too often it's like revenue, and then they let them run for 12 months. And at 12 months, they look at, oh, where's the partner source revenue? 0. Okay, fire the team. And ultimately, they were just gaming all the momentum, and they had great leading indicators to be a significant driver of the success in the next quarter or maybe in the next year.
Yeah, it's a great summary. I truly love it. So it's the end-to-end perspective on partnerships. I truly love it, with the entire commercial organization, marketing, sales, customer success, and product. It totally resonated with me. You need, if you're serious about partnerships and not kind of some potential quick wins, if you're really, really serious about partnerships, you need the alignment of all the entire leadership. And it should be aligned and attached to company-wide goals, because otherwise you have this kind of toxic friction, I would call, that you are kind of interfering with direct sales in all your team and the partner's team, and it won't be successful. No chance. This is one of my takeaways. Is there
Absolutely.
anything to add from your side?
Well, there's one thing, right? If you do not shy away from, I mean, there's nothing wrong with try and error, but sometimes it's good to just get expertise in. Too many times we see like people start one or another partnership. They feel like, oh yeah, let's hire somebody, but maybe not too senior. Let's hire somebody like junior, mid-level, buy some tools, and then hope that it will work. It doesn't. I mean, there are fantastic posts from partner people, like, don't hire somebody and then they need to be orchestrating everything, right? And I've been there. I started my career in this. I like it, but the risk of failure is very high. We have to wear so many hats, and if you just let them being a silo, like, hey, we're the partner people, let's create revenue, and then we will measure in 12 months whether we will keep you. I mean, this is the most toxic environment ever. And there's also a big difference between building in a machine and running a machine. So, some people say, oh yeah, we hire somebody who's was 5 years per team lead in Microsoft partner. Yeah, awesome. Probably a great person, but this person was never meant to build it. They were managing an existing program which was designed in Redwood. I personally stopped being a manager because I like to build. I didn't like to manage the team, and everything was set up and built and run. You need somebody with people skill. And I want to. My team told me, you can't be a player coach anymore. You need to be a coach. We need you at the sideline. And I wanted to play, so I went and said, somebody needs to take over the team lead, because that's a different skill set from building the program, developing the strategy, making the program up and running, and then somebody who executes according to the program which was set up, brings the strategy on the street which was designed. It's very unique to find people. I mean, there are people out there, don't get me wrong, but it's really hard to find those who can really start from scratch, developing the whole strategy, bring them, be the first man on the ground. And it's same like sales, right? It's a difference whether you are a great AE or you a great sales leader, or somebody who can actually build a great go-to-market notion with and orchestrating the whole symphony around it.
Yeah, it's a great addition and a great last remark to distinguish between really building up and setting up the partnership with all the learnings and expertise, and then actually to run it and manage it and optimize it. Entirely different skill set also from my side, which is a great handover as a closing remark. So when people are interested in hearing more your expertise, all the learnings you collected, you mentioned your programs, what is the best way to reach out to you, Martin?
I think the easiest way would probably be on LinkedIn, or just go to our website, partnerexperience.com. The link will be its partner and then a big X. So we're missing the first E.
We added into the show notes so that we eliminate this potential blocker. It was a true pleasure, and it was so short while. Thanks again, sharing all of your expertise, Martin, and thanks again. Have a wonderful day. Let's talk soon.
Let's talk soon. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.